Okay, so we are going to learn today about economic systems or economies. Sorry. Okay. Let me hide that little thing. There we go. All right. So hopefully you know a little bit about economies. The basic question that economy or economic systems ask is how do we get what we need and want? In our economy, the United States of America, we get what we need and want with money. Show me the money. We have to work for money. So, if you're watching this teaching video, then maybe you couldn't make it to class today, or maybe you chose to learn independently. If that is so, then you're not going to be able to watch this video, but hopefully I remembered to make a recording of class, and so you can go back and watch that if you want to. All right, so back to economies and how do citizens get what they need and want? There's four main types of economies. Okay, one is a traditional economy. This is usually farming, hunting, gathering, basic making of pottery, bakery, smaller villages, smaller societies might work on a traditional economy. They may have a money system, but they may not. They may barter and trade for what they need. I'll trade 5 eggs for that loaf of bread type of thing. So we call this a subsistence agriculture, or usually this is a developing area. Um, Usually you're just farming or gathering enough for your family. You may end up with extra, which, would be nice. You save it for the off seasons or you use your extra for that barter and trade. But most of the time, you're just usually earning enough or making enough to feed your family. Um, this economy is based on customs, based on your society's habits, based on your society's needs. So, customs being if your father is a farmer, then you become a farmer. If your mother is the town seamstress, you become the town seamstress. If your father is the baker, you become the baker. If your mother is the town medic, then you become the town medic. So, that's why if we were in class, we would have written that in terms of notes. Jobs are handed down through the family. Um, as I said, you're farming for yourself and your family. You barter and trade. If your area has a money system, then you might pay a small more portion of money that you've earned to taxes, or you may have to give a small percentage of your produce or whatever you make to the local government in lieu of taxes. Okay, so a traditional economy. A command economy is exactly what it kind of sounds like. It is by the government. They are commanding what you're going to make, what your area is going to make, produce, sell, how much you're going to sell it for. So you can see the pictures. Somebody is bossing around the boss who's bossing the common man who is down on his knees because he's beholden to the government. If we were under a command economy in the United States, which we're not, but if we were, and the pandemic first started and we ran out of toilet paper, then our government would have told all businesses stop manufacturing whatever they were manufacturing and they had to make toilet paper. And then the toilet paper would be sold at X price, let's say $10 for a package. And then we would be in long lines to buy the toilet paper that the government would have said we had to make. So often, this is a type of government that is totalitarianism, which we'll learn that word more when we look at the world wars. But it goes with yesterday's learning of governments. This is the dictatorship, the tyranny type government. Um, so the government demands, the government sets up the businesses, the government owns the property that the businesses are on. Um, and so it's pretty much a total planned economy in terms of a command economy. The leaders decide, um, and you end up paying a large amount of your income towards taxes. It's like you're prepaying for your products in a command economy. Citizens end up to be pretty poor in this kind of economy, and government ends up to be the richer. So, a little overview there of command economy. All right, market economy sounds just like what it is. If you've ever been to a farmer's market, where lots of people are set up, they decide the business that they want to set up at that farmer's market. You could have 2 to 10 potato growers all at that farmer's market. They all decide what they want to charge for their own potatoes. It does not have to be the same. That's a market economy, free enterprise, capitalism. This is based on supply and demand, which we'll get into later. So it's based on what the citizens want, basically, and then how much you can supply to the citizens. So these five characteristics of a market economy all boil back down to individual citizens. Individual citizens have these freedoms, these rights. The citizens, not the government, controls the production, the use of the resources, and they make their own decisions about prices. So, one, you have the freedom to choose your own business. If the person that lives across the street from you is a potato farmer and they're doing very well farming their potatoes, and you have the same type of soil and you think, I want to be a potato farmer too, you can. You don't have to worry about the fact that they're a potato farmer and you might take some of their business away. You can choose to be a potato farmer. You have the right to private property. You own your own property. You can own the building that your business is. You have the right to make a profit. That means that you will have extra money to put in your bank account, your wallet, your pocket. You have the right to competition. Go back to the potato farmer example. You can be the potato farmer too if you want. Not a problem. You have the right to choose what to buy. The government doesn't tell you that you have to buy toilet paper on Tuesdays. So, it's all about personal choice and private property. You may pay a small portion of money earned to taxes, about a fourth of your earnings. But if you look back through these descriptors, you don't see much about government in here. A market economy, a free economy, has usually little to no government involvement, except maybe you got to pay a little bit to help keep your government running. Okay, so it's an overview of a market economy. Mixed economy. Now, most areas fall into a mixed system. And what is it a mixed of? It's usually a blend of the um, command economies and the market, the free market economies. So it's a blended system. In the United States, um, we definitely have all those characteristics that I just read to you about capitalism. You can decide that you want to run a business. You can own the business. You can own the property. You can compete with other businesses that are similar to you. You decide your own prices, and you decide how to use your resources. So the United States is very much a capitalist economy. However, we do have, and if you look, we'd been in class, we'd have written this, we do have social programs. In the example here, it says, things like transportation. So we have a busing system. Um, and government regulating some of the prices of our natural resources. So, the government decides how much oil is going to cost and that kind of thing. But they also decide on things like the health code and labor laws and discrimination laws. So those things also affect maybe the business that you decide to run. So we do have a little bit of government involvement in our economy, especially when it comes to the social programs. Also, our government decides how to spend taxes. So the taxes you pay, which is more than in a free market economy, we pay about a third of our income to taxes, and then the government, whether it's the state government or the federal government, decides how to use that money. They how much of it goes to food stamps, how much of it goes to education, how much of it goes to social security, how much of it goes to our, public transportation system, our public waterworks system type of thing. Okay, so we do have some government involvement. So that would be a mixed economy. It has characteristics of both command economy and free market economy. So if you look at this, you can see some examples and how this is more of a spectrum. No one seems to be exactly this or exactly that, exactly a command economy or exactly a pure free market economy. You can see where certain countries lie on the spectrum. North Korea is closer to a command economy. China and Venezuela are a mixed economy with more government involvement than individual involvement. France and Sweden are a little bit more in the middle of a balance of government involvement and individual decision making. And then you have countries like the United States and Japan, which are more on the free markets side of a mixed economy. So we have more individual decisions about businesses and how they're run and less government involvement. It's still there, but it's just not as much. Okay. So we're going to get into supply and demand a little bit more in the next lesson, but here is a supply and demand chart. You can see we've got price on the y-axis, quantity on the x-axis. When price meets quantity, that's a sweet spot, that's equilibrium. That's where most economies want to be, but that's not where they hardly ever get to be, where the demand for a product meets the supply of the product. So the demand for toilet paper out was way higher than the supply of toilet paper in the beginning of our pandemic here in the United States. So you can see that when demand is high and quantity is low, what can happen to the price? It can go up, right? So now that we have a lot of toilet paper and we don't need it as much, the demand for toilet paper has gone down, the supply has gone back up. Um, the price can be lower because we don't need as much. However, if you actually look at toilet paper, they're still charging a lot for it. But that's just a little, I guess, overview of supply and demand. We're going to get into it more, like I said, in the next lesson. We would have this in our notebooks. So, a little bit more about supply and demand. So, you have firms, plants, things like that. They supply the products based on demand. So let's see. Let's do what's something you guys would be familiar with? Shoes, right? Shoes. Everybody wants shoes. Okay. So based on how many citizens are wanting shoes, then the industry would decide how much shoes they're going to make and they would supply it to the stores. Those are the output markets to the stores. Your places in the mall, or now we have online shopping, right? So the firms supply it to the stores based on demand. They also make their prices based on demand and supply. And then we go to the store and we buy it. Here we go, based on demand, how many people need it. So in the household, we kind of help decide with the business as how much they're going to make. If we're all needing lots of shoes, then they're going to make lots of shoes. If not, then they're not going to make a lot of shoes. We also are the workers who usually supply a lot of the resources to these firms. So we're the workers, that's the labor. The money that we spend on the shoes, that's capital, that helps to keep them running. Some people decide, well, I want to be a shoemaker. If everybody's needing shoes, then I'm going to start my own shoemaking business. We supply physical resources like transportation, and the machinery to actually make the shoes, and we supply information. What kind of shoes are we needing in our society? So there's a little supply and demand cycle. Okay. All right. Now, you are going to, because you will have saved this, if you are in class, you will have saved this slide deck to your Social Studies 101. If you didn't make it to class, go to Canvas, to your modules for today, and save the slide deck as I've taught you, because you are going to do this Economic Ideas Part 1. Most of you are going to do it on your own. However, if you want to work with me in small groups, then you will be in class. All right. So if you're on your iPad, you can choose speak screen and speak selection in your settings, and you can highlight this and it will read it to you if you would like. Okay. So you've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions. All right. And they kind of all go, they're similar. I've used examples of what I've just talked about. And then you're answering the questions. Okay. So you have the slide deck saved and you can use it to go back and forth. And like I said, you might be in class working with me on this, all right? But we won't give each other the answers if we're working together. All right, so you're going to click that link and you're going to complete this main ideas of economy part 1. Tomorrow we'll do part 2. There's not a link. Haha. All right. See you guys. Bye.